Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a criminal, right? So elusive, I mean, really prolific. Authorities across, what, 3 countries? They believed they were hunting this single, mysterious female serial killer for years. Yeah, her DNA, or what they thought was her DNA, it turned up at like over 40 different crime scenes.
40. Wow, that's quite a number.
It is, including 6 murders. Just this trail of terror, confusion, They called her the Phantom of
A
Heilbronn.
woman without a face. Yeah, I remember the headline.
Exactly. There was all this fear, this massive international manhunt. And get this, she never actually existed. The whole thing was a ghost.
It really does sound like something straight out of a suspense novel, doesn't it? And you think about modern investigations.
Yeah.
Forensic evidence, DNA especially, it's seen as the gold standard.
Absolutely.
It's completely changed crime solving, hasn't it? That ability to pinpoint suspects, sometimes with incredible accuracy. But this deep dive, well, it's going to reveal how this massive, unprecedented investigative error happened. And it's rooted in the very tools, the very science meant to bring clarity. It basically changed forensic science forever.
Yeah, it really forces you to question those fundamental assumptions about evidence reliability.
It does.
And that's exactly why we're here today. Our mission is to trace the dramatic rise and the really spectacular, almost unbelievable fall of this Phantom of Heilbronn. We're going to peel back the layers, look at the crucial details of this baffling case, and uncover its profound, maybe even shocking, implications for how we collect evidence, how we interpret it, and ultimately, how much we trust it.
Let's do it.
So let's set the scene a bit. The reign of this phantom. We're talking from 1993 all the way up to 2009.
Over 15 years.
Exactly. And this single unidentified female DNA just seemed to pop up everywhere. And the crime scenes were, frankly, bizarrely wide-ranging.
Right, not focused at all.
Not at all. This DNA was found on objects linked to, everything. Burglaries, car thefts, home invasions, even a robbery involving a toy pistol in France.
A toy pistol. Seriously.
Yeah, so the sheer lack of a consistent criminal profile for this supposed person, it just puzzled and frustrated investigators for years. You had to wonder, how could one person be involved in such a diverse range of offenses across such vast distances? It defied logic.
It truly did. The breadth and randomness of these crimes, it completely flew in the face of conventional criminal profiling. This phantom's DNA, it was found at really high-profile murder scenes, like the killing of police officer Michelle Kieswetter in Heilbronn, Germany. That was April 25, 2007.
A police officer. That must have really raised the stakes.
Hugely. It was incredibly high-profile, massive pressure. There's even a commemorative marker near the site where she was killed.
Wow. And the list of murders they linked to this phantom, it's long and tragic, spanning more than a decade.
It is.
We're talking about Lieselot Schlesinger, 62 years old, killed back in 1993 in Idar Oberstein, Germany. The DNA was found on a cup there.
On a teacup.
Then Joseph Walzenbach, 61, murdered in Freiburg in 2001. DNA on a kitchen drawer.
Right.
The same DNA showed up on a heroin syringe in the case of Jürgen Buehler, also 2001. It was even found in a transport car used for the bodies of 3 Georgians killed in 2008. And in the car of Diana Pavlenko, a 45-year-old auxiliary nurse, found dead in late 2008, just case after case.
And beyond these horrific murders, the list of other crimes is just as varied, which only made the profile more confusing, right?
Exactly.
The DNA turned up on, the leftovers of a cookie in a trailer that had been broken into.
Yes, a half-eaten cookie supposedly linking to this serial killer.
It sounds absurd now, but at the time...
They were desperate for leads.
Completely. It was found on that toy pistol you mentioned after a robbery in France, on a stone used to smash a window during a burglary, even on a projectile after a fight between 2 brothers.
So it's like this person was a ghost, appearing everywhere, involved in literally everything imaginable, but leaving no other trace.
Pretty much. It must have driven investigators absolutely mad. The inconsistency was the only consistent thing.
And the effort to catch her. It was huge, wasn't it? They set up a special task force.
They did, named Parkplatz, which ironically means parking lot, based at the Heilbronn Police Department, focused solely on this one phantom individual.
A dedicated task force.
Yeah.
And the reward money.
It eventually climbed to $300,000, a staggering amount.
Wow. That really shows the urgency, doesn't it? The sheer scale of resources poured into this hunt, the pressure on law enforcement across Germany, Austria, France, to catch someone who seemed like a master of evasion.
Absolutely. Millions of euros, countless police hours, all spent chasing what they believed was one of Europe's most prolific and, frankly, most baffling criminals.
A massive undertaking.
It really highlights the commitment. And, early on, the DNA analysis capabilities, they actually varied depending on the country.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, in Germany, for instance, at that time, DNA analysis could mainly just determine the sex, female. That was the key thing.
Okay.
But Austrian investigators, they could do mitochondrial DNA analysis.
Mm.
Now, unlike nuclear DNA, that's inherited just from the mother, right? So it can trace lineage back to broader population groups.
Right, I've heard of that.
And their analysis showed characteristics most often found among people in Eastern Europe and neighboring Russia.
Ah, so that seemed like a solid lead. Like, okay, we're looking for an Eastern European woman.
Exactly. It seemed like a breakthrough, narrowing the search. But of course, as we now know, it sent them down a completely misleading path.
A path based on a coincidence, essentially.
Precisely. And what's truly fascinating, looking back, is how the sheer diversity of these crimes, spanning over a decade, huge geographical distances
Yeah.
that should have been a screaming red flag.
Yeah, you think so.
It just defied conventional criminal profiling. Most serial offenders, they have a specific MO, right? A victim type, a method. The Phantom had none. Yet the DNA was undeniably the same, sample after sample. It created this enormous cognitive dissonance for the investigators.
They must have been tearing their hair out.
I imagine so.
Okay, so that brings us to the turning point. Years of frustration, dead ends, this growing sense of maybe impossibility, and then the breakthrough. It didn't come from some brilliant deduction, did it?
Not at all. It came from something entirely unrelated, actually quite grim.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting, folks. Late March 2009, investigators are working on identifying the burned remains of a male asylum seeker in France.
A tragic case, but seemingly routine forensic work, identifying remains. Until they found the impossible finding. The Phantom's female DNA signature turned up on his asylum application form. On the paper form he had handled. Think about that. A male victim, his personal documents, and the DNA of this phantom female serial killer. It wasn't just contradictory, it shattered the entire Phantom theory instantly.
That had to be the penny drop moment.
Absolutely. It was the crucial, undeniable piece that forced everyone to realize something was fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong. Not with the killer, but with their interpretation of the DNA evidence itself.
So if it wasn't the Phantom, if it wasn't this master criminal, what was it? How did they finally figure out the real source of these traces? How could one person's DNA end up at dozens of crime scenes across Europe without them ever being there?
Well, the conclusion they reached was astonishing, almost mundane in a way compared to the Phantom killer theory.
Okay.
There was no mysterious criminal. The DNA traces belonged to a woman who worked at the factory that manufactured the cotton swabs.
The cotton swabs, the ones the police were using.
The very ones the police used to collect DNA samples at all those crime scenes.
No way.
Yes. The fundamental flaw was this. The swabs were sterile, meaning, free from bacteria, viruses, living microorganisms.
Right, like medical swabs.
Exactly. But they were not certified as human DNA free. And that's a critical distinction in forensics.
I see.
For collecting human DNA, especially tiny trace amounts at crime scenes, swabs need an incredibly strict standard of purity. These particular swabs, likely intended for general medical use, had become contaminated during the production process.
By the factory worker?
By one of the women working there. Her DNA got onto the swabs during manufacturing or packaging, and these contaminated swabs acted like microscopic carriers, planting her genetic signature at crime scene after crime scene.
So every time the police used one of these swabs,
they were inadvertently depositing this woman's DNA onto the evidence they were collecting.
That is unbelievable. And you mentioned the Eastern European connection.
Right. It turned out all the contaminated swabs came from the same factory. And purely by coincidence, this factory employed several Eastern European women.
So the mitochondrial DNA profile the Austrians found.
It fit these women, including the one whose DNA was contaminating the swabs. It gave investigators this false confirmation, this seemingly solid lead, pointing towards Eastern Europe, when it was just an artifact of the swab manufacturing.
Wow. That is a chain of coincidences that led to a massive international investigation.
It truly is. And adding to the puzzle, remember the geography. Bavarian police, who sourced their swabs from a different factory, never found any phantom DNA in their investigations.
Even though Bavaria is right there close to many of the crime scenes.
Exactly. That discrepancy further cemented the contamination theory once they started looking into it.
Had anyone suspected contamination before the asylum seeker case broke it open?
Apparently, yes. It's noted that some officers had privately suspected contamination as early as 2008. They just couldn't reconcile the wildly diverse crimes with a single DNA profile.
The MO was just too scattered.
Precisely. But it took that impossible finding on the asylum seeker's form, the female DNA on a male victim's document, to definitively prove their fears and blow the case wide open.
It really connects to that bigger picture, doesn't it? This fundamental vulnerability in forensic science. The assumption that our tools, our collection methods, are perfectly clean and fit for purpose.
Absolutely. It forces us to ask, what does sterile truly mean in a forensic context? Especially when you're dealing with minute traces of human DNA. Clearly, just being free of microbes isn't enough. It needs to be an absolute absence of any extraneous human genetic material.
I can only imagine the fallout after this revelation. The media coverage must have been insane worldwide.
Oh, it's huge.
And the sheer embarrassment and frustration for the police forces in Germany, Austria, France, years spent, millions of euros chasing a phantom created by a cotton swab. What were the immediate consequences?
The consequences were significant, and honestly, they had a lasting global impact on forensic science. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was a huge wake-up call.
I bet.
This massive blunder underscored, in a way nothing else could have, the critical importance of preventing contamination at every single stage, from the factory making the tools, to the crime scene technician, to the lab analyst.
So did things actually change? Were there new rules put in place?
Yes, directly because of the Phantom of Heilbronn case. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO, they published a crucial new standard in 2016. It's called ISO 12385.
ISO 12385, what does it do?
It specifically defines the requirements for minimizing the risk of human DNA contamination in products used to collect, store, and analyze biological material for forensic purposes. So basically, it ensures that swabs, tubes, everything used for forensic DNA work are manufactured to be free of human DNA.
A direct response to this case.
A direct, concrete response. This case serves as such a stark reminder. A real cautionary tale, doesn't it? Even the most advanced scientific tools, like DNA analysis, are only as good as the processes behind them. The quality control, the assumptions we make, it forced the entire forensic community to reassess protocols, top to bottom. It created a new gold standard for purity in forensic supplies.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's just an incredible journey. We started with this terrifying idea. A phantom serial killer haunting Europe for over a decade, impacting countless lives, costing millions.
A truly frightening scenario.
And we end with, well, the mundane yet profound reality of a tiny contamination error on a basic cotton swab. It's almost hard to reconcile the two.
It really is. And I think this case truly underscores how vital it is to question assumptions, always, even when you're dealing with seemingly airtight scientific evidence like DNA.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding the DNA. It's about meticulously understanding its context, its origin, its entire journey from wherever it came from to the lab analysis.
The provenance of the evidence.
Exactly. The Phantom of Heilbronn forces us to be constantly critical. To evaluate the evidence, sure, but also the tools we use, the processes, the potential for hidden flaws. It teaches us that vigilance against contamination, against these unseen errors in our foundational data, is just paramount.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? I think the story of the woman without a face is this powerful reminder, isn't it? That sometimes the most profound insights, the biggest shifts in understanding, they come from questioning what we think we know for sure.
Absolutely.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other phantoms might be lurking unseen in the data we trust every single day, whether it's in, our news feeds, our medical results, or even the algorithms that are increasingly shaping our lives. Where else might a simple contamination be leading us astray?